Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabe. I welcome you to Basic Histology. What is the logical order in which the concept of atoms, molecules, cells, up to biosphere are associated? Atoms form molecules that form cells, that form tissues, that form organs, that form systems. Systems, in their turn, contribute individuals that form populations, that compound biological communities, that form biotic components of the ecosystem. All ecosystems of Earth form the biosphere. From the zygote, pluricellular organisms are formed by cellulose mitosis. Would this formation be possible if each cell made by mitosis had an identical life in relation to its intestate cells? How did evolution solve that problem? The formation of complex and distinct polycellular organisms would not be possible if mitosis in embryos produced only daughter cells with identical life history as the mother cell, since there would not be differentiation and structure or function specialization among cells. Evolution solved the problem, creating the cellular differentiation process, by which motivated stimulus, not yet well known by science, different and specialized cell lineage gave birth to different tissues, organs, systems that as a whole form a pluricellular organism. Cellular differentiation probably is a very intricate process that activates and inactivates some genes within the cell in response to some stimulus. What are the many types of animal tissues? The main cell tissues are epithelial tissues, the nervous tissues, the muscle tissues, and the connective tissues. What are epithelial tissues? What are their general function? And how is that function associated with the future of the tissue? Epithelial tissues, also called epithelia, are tissues specialized in the covering of external and internal surface of the body. The general function of epithelium is to provide protection and impermeability, that is, selective permeability, to the covered structure. This justifies the epitheliotypical features: cellular juxtaposition, forming layers of very proximate cells with diminished and non-intercellular space between each of the two neighbor cells. Of which cells is the nervous tissue constituted? How is the genetic function of this tissue related to the characteristics of the main cell type that forms it? The nervous tissue is formed of neurons and glia cells. Function of the nervous tissue is to receive and to transmit neural impulses, that is, reception and transmission of information. This function justifies the characteristic morphology of the neurons, with the membrane projections, what we call the dendrites, to get information, and the elongated membrane projection, what we call the axon or the nerve fiber, to transmit information at a distance. In their turn, the glia cells support the neurons and facilitate their work, sometimes acting as insulators. What are muscle tissues? How is the function of this tissue related to the typical characteristics of its cells? Muscle tissue, these are tissue made of cells able to perform contraction and thus generate movement. The function of muscle tissues is to pull bones, those are skeletal striated muscles, to contract and move viscera and vessels, those are smooth muscles, and to make the heart to beat, cardiac striated muscles. The muscle cells have internal structures called sarcomeres, where there are myosin and actin molecules disposed to create contraction and distension, that is, movement. What is the typical biological function of the connective tissues? How is this function associated to the main features of its cells? The typical function of connective tissues is to fill empty spaces among other body tissues. This function is related to the capability of the cells of the connective tissues to secrete substances that constitute the extracellular material like collagen, elastic fibers, creating significant spacing between these cells. There are other important biological features of the connective tissues. As substance transportation, defense of organism, and many others. Of which type of tissue are cartilages and bones made? Bones and cartilage tissues with great amount of intercellular material are formed of connective tissues. As cells of the connective tissues far or near to the other? The relative great spacing between cells is a typical feature of the connective tissue. There are much intercellular material generally secreted by the tissue cells. What are the general functions of the connective tissues? The main function of the connective tissues are supporting and filling spaces, cellular nutrition, energetic storage, those are fats, hematopoiesis, formation of blood cells and blood components, immune defense, specialized cells. What is connective tissue proper? The name connective tissue proper is used to designate the connective tissue that fill interstitial spaces as opposed to specialized connective tissues like the blood, the bones, cartilage, adipose tissues, and many others. Connective tissue proper secrete collagen, elastin, and reticular fibers. What is the main cells of the connective tissues proper? What is the name given to the intercellular material that surrounds these cells? The main cells of the connective tissue proper are the fibroblast cells that secrete intercellular material. These cells are the majority of the cells of the tissue. Fibroblasts later are transformed into fibrocytes, mature cells with restricted secretory role. The intercellular substance that fills the interstice is called interstitial matrix or just matrix. What are the three types of protein fibers of the connective tissue proper? The matrix of the connective tissue proper is made of collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. What is the function of collagen fiber of the connective tissue? There are different types of collagen types. The main function of this protein is to keep the shape and the structure rigidity of the tissue. Collagen is the most abundant protein of the human body. Of which substance do elastic fibers of the connective tissue are made? What are some of the functions of these fibers? Elastic fibers are made of protein called elastin. Elastic fibers bound in artery walls, helping to maintain the arterial blood pressure in these vessels. They are also present in the lungs, providing them with elasticity. Some respiratory diseases are caused by destruction of these fibers. In many other organs and tissues, the elastic fibers are found in the interstitial matrix. What are the reticular fibers of the connective tissue and where can they be found? Reticular fibers are very delicate interstitial fibers made of the special type of collagen known as collagen type 3. They can be found in many organs and tissues such as the lymph nodes, in the spleen, in the liver, blood vessels, and also covering muscle fibers. What are diseases of the connective tissue? What are some of them? Diseases of connective tissues are hereditary or acquired diseases, many of the autoimmune cause, characterized by deficiency of structure or function of the components of the connective tissues. For example, deficiency of collagen, elastin, and many others. Some of such diseases are lupus, dermatomyositis, keloids, scleroderma, mixed connective tissue disease, mucinosis, and Marfan syndrome. Thank you very much for participating in histology. Please do share, like, and subscribe.